Imagine a land where ancient traditions and cutting-edge technology coexist in perfect harmony. This is Japan, a nation that, in just 100 years, transformed from an isolated empire into a global powerhouse. But this journey wasn't without struggle. Let me take you through the story of Japan's extraordinary 20th century. The dawn of a modern empire, 1900 to 1912. The 20th century began under the rule of Emperor Meiji. Japan had already opened its doors to the world in the late 1800s, but the momentum of modernization was unstoppable. Railroads crisscrossed the islands, factories churned out goods, and the military grew stronger. By defeating China in 1895, Japan announced itself as a rising power in Asia. In 1904, Japan shocked the world by defeating Russia in the Russo-Japanese War. It was the first time in modern history that an Asian nation triumphed over a European power. Japan gained control over Korea and southern Sakhalin, solidifying its imperial ambitions. This victory also inspired movements in colonized nations across Asia and Africa, who saw Japan as proof that imperial powers could be resisted. The modernization wasn't limited to military or industrial progress. By 1910, Tokyo boasted electric streetlights and telegraph lines, symbolizing its transformation into a modern city. Education reforms also played a key role, as literacy rates surged, and Japan became one of the most educated nations in the world by the early 20th century. Additionally, cultural identity remained strong, with traditional arts flourishing even as modernization swept through the country. The Taisho era and global recognition, 1912 to 1926. After Emperor Meiji's death, the Taisho era began, a time of political change and cultural growth. Japan joined the Allies during World War I, providing ships and resources. By the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, Japan gained territories like parts of China and the Pacific Islands, and its seat in the League of Nations marked its rise as a global player. But this was also a period of social transformation. The roaring 1920s brought Western influences, jazz music, flapper fashion, and the rise of what historians call the Taisho democracy, as citizens pushed for greater political freedoms. By 1925, Japan introduced universal male suffrage, marking a significant step toward democracy and empowering millions of new voters. The cultural explosion of this era wasn't limited to politics. The arts flourished, with the establishment of modern theaters and a rise in literary works exploring individualism and modernization. Cities like Tokyo and Osaka became hubs of avant-garde art and Western-style entertainment, blending traditional Japanese aesthetics with modern sensibilities. Meanwhile, the rise of mass media, such as newspapers and cinema, created new ways for ideas and culture to spread. The shadows of war, 1930s. The Great Depression hit Japan hard in the 1930s, leading to unemployment, rural poverty, and social unrest. Nationalist leaders gained power, pushing for military expansion as a way to secure resources and revive the economy. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, creating the puppet state of Manchukuo and marking the beginning of its aggressive imperial expansion. By the late 1930s, Japan's aggression escalated. The Second Sino-Japanese War began in 1937, with horrific events like the Nanking Massacre, where tens of thousands of civilians lost their lives. These atrocities shocked the world and tarnished Japan's reputation as it pursued its vision of becoming the dominant power in Asia. The militarization of society was reflected in education and culture. Schools taught children patriotic songs and martial arts, instilling loyalty to the emperor. Meanwhile, government propaganda glorified soldiers and presented Japan's expansion as a mission to liberate Asia from Western imperialism. Interestingly, while the economy suffered, technological advancements in aviation and shipbuilding positioned Japan for rapid mobilization during the upcoming World War. World War II and its consequences, 1941 to 1945. In 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, bringing the United States into World War II. Initially, Japan dominated the Pacific, taking territories from the Philippines to Indonesia. However, major defeats, such as the Battle of Midway in 1942, marked a turning point, as the Allied forces began reclaiming lost territory. The war came to a devastating end in 1945, when the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 200,000 lives were lost in these bombings, and Japan surrendered unconditionally. Emperor Hirohito made a historic radio address, the first ever heard by the Japanese public, announcing the surrender and renouncing his divine status. The devastation wasn't limited to the atomic bombings. Conventional firebombing campaigns had already destroyed much of Tokyo and other major cities. By the war's end, Japan's infrastructure, economy, and morale lay in ruins, with millions homeless and hungry. Amid this darkness, however, the seeds of post-war resilience were being sown. Rising from the ashes, 1945 to 1960s, Japan lay in ruins, but its people began the hard work of rebuilding. Under American occupation, Japan adopted a new constitution in 1947, renouncing war and establishing a democratic government. This new framework emphasized human rights, gender equality, and pacifism, fundamentally reshaping Japanese society. The economy began to recover with land reforms and investments in education, which created a skilled workforce. By the 1950s and 60s, Japan's economy surged. Companies like Toyota, Sony, and Panasonic became global brands, leading the way in innovation and quality manufacturing. The 1964 Tokyo Olympics symbolized Japan's recovery and reemergence as a peaceful and prosperous nation. Interestingly, Japan's post-war recovery wasn't just economic, it was psychological. The philosophy of gaman, meaning perseverance in the face of adversity, became a guiding principle for many Japanese people, helping them rebuild their lives and communities with resilience and hope. Cultural renaissance and global influence, 1970s to 1980s. The 1970s and 80s marked Japan's golden era. It became the world's second largest economy, driven by exports of cars, electronics, and robotics. Japan's bullet trains, or Shinkansen, became a global symbol of precision engineering and efficiency, transporting millions of passengers across the country at unprecedented speeds. Beyond technology, Japan's culture captured the world's imagination. Anime, video games, and manga became global phenomena. Iconic brands like Nintendo brought joy to millions, while Studio Ghibli created animated masterpieces such as My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away, which won an Academy Award. Japan's influence wasn't limited to pop culture. Its aesthetic principles, such as wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection, inspired global movements in art, design, and even lifestyle philosophies. During this era, Japanese cuisine, particularly sushi, also gained international popularity, further solidifying Japan's soft power. Additionally, Japan's concept of kaizen, or continuous improvement, revolutionized industries worldwide. The challenges and transformation, 1990s. By the 1990s, Japan faced economic stagnation, known as the Lost Decade. The real estate and stock market bubbles burst, leading to years of slow growth. This period tested Japan's resilience, but the country adapted, embracing new technologies and transitioning into the digital age. Despite economic challenges, Japan remained a global leader in innovation. Companies pioneered advancements in robotics, creating humanoid robots like Honda's Asimo, which captured the world's attention. Additionally, Japan's expertise in miniaturization led to breakthroughs in electronics, from Walkmans to compact cameras. Japan also became a global leader in sustainability during this time. Tokyo adopted initiatives to make its neighborhoods greener and more livable, setting an example for urban planning worldwide. Additionally, Japan's enduring respect for nature, seen in practices like forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, offered the world a unique perspective on mental and physical well-being. Japan's 20th century was a journey of transformation, from isolation to global influence, from devastation to innovation. It's a story of resilience, reinvention, and an unyielding spirit. The lessons of Japan's history are universal. The importance of adaptability, the power of unity, and the ability to rebuild even after unimaginable loss. History teaches us not just about the past, but about the strength within us to shape the future. So, what lessons will we carry forward from Japan's remarkable story? If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the History Through Ages channel for more fascinating stories from around the world.